Step into the light where the wild ones roam, where the heart speaks loud, calling this place home. We break the rules, we paint the sky, ridiculously you, we were born to fly. Ooh, ooh, it's ridiculously you.
Alrighty. Welcome to the Ridiculously You podcast. I am your host, Julie May. This is the show where we celebrate people who stopped living by everyone else's rules and started creating lives that actually work for them. Today's guest might completely change the way you think about something completely ordinary, such as your home. She's a home organization strategist, but probably not in the way you're thinking. She's not going to come in and have one set way of doing things and put it away in places you'll never find it again. That's not how she works. She's not going to show up with a color wheel and matching bins for every single person. She's going to come and do something that actually works for you. And she calls herself a chaos witch, which I think is fantastic. That's not a rule is one of the most freeing sentences in the English language, according to Alyssa anyway. And she lives by another philosophy I absolutely love, which is if it's silly but works, it's perfect. Today we're talking about organization, neurodivergence, which all I love, and people pleasing, invisible rules, magic, why your house might actually be trying to tell you something about yourself. And with that, please welcome Alyssa.
Hello.
Hello, hello. So tell me a little bit about how you got into like house organization and stuff like that, because for those of us like with ADHD, running a little neurodivergent brains, I think that's one of those things that, like, especially if somebody that's I have all of the spectrum of things. Maybe a little ADHD where I'm like, it has to be in a certain order and exactly so, and then my ADHD can't find anything, and then I end up crying in a corner. So like, how did you get into organization?
So it was a very, very roundabout story. I think a lot of people that go into organization sort of grow up being very tidy and organized, and they
Mhm.
have this intrinsic understanding of what organized looks like and how to do it for them. And so they go into professional organizing because there's the thought that, like, oh, well, I know what I do and it works. So if you just do what I do, then it'll work for you. And I think that's lovely for them. It's not for me. I did not grow up tidy and organized. If you could see my bedroom floor, it was a family joke. I heard, oh, look who finally cleaned their room so many times, like I could say it along with them.
Yeah.
It was awful. And I always thought that that was a personal failing on my part.
Mhm.
And I did not grow up knowing about the ADHD, the autism, any of it. And I had no idea those things were related. My original career path was teaching. I
Mm.
doubled in education and psychology, primarily psychology of learning. I really liked the gifted students, the twice exceptional students. I worked really well with them. I Kids with ADHD, we just clicked. We could understand each other in ways that other teachers, it would drive them bonkers. And
Yeah.
I didn't even know at that time. Well, then the pandemic happened and I got sick. It wasn't it wasn't that, but it was something else that was sort of happening at the same time. And basically had to accept that with my health, I was not going to go back to being a classroom teacher. And I
Mm.
had to find something else to do. Basically, simultaneously, I went from being out of my house for many hours a day to being in it all the time. And it was driving me bonkers. I was so frustrated. I was like, okay, it cannot be this hard. It can't. Other people manage to have a tidy home that doesn't take every spare ounce of energy that they possess. Like, this has to be possible. And
Yes.
that was when I got diagnosed.
Mm.
And then I put my teacher hat back on and went, okay, hang on a second. If I had a student who had the diagnosis that I have who was trying to do something as hard as I'm trying to do this, what would I say to them? And I would not have ever in a million years said any of the things to them that I was saying to me.
Mm.
I would have been looking at the environment, going, okay, as the adult in the room, how can I set them up for success? How can I change their environment to suit what they need to get out of it? And then that was step one to the first thing is get rid of the idea of what it should look like because we're just going to have to accept that it's not going to look like that. And then it got easy. And that was wild. It had never, I always just thought like, oh, it's impossible. And it was getting so easy to just take care of the stuff that needed to be taken care of. And the more I changed my thinking toward what feels right instead of what should I do, the easier it got. And I just sort of kept rolling downhill with it.
Mm. Do you know what? You just did some like super brilliant things that I think a lot of people in that situation don't do. And that is looking at it from like this angle of what in this environment would actually make me thrive. It's like a topic I was just talking to a client about literally this morning. And it's like, how do we make an environment that makes you thrive, that makes me thrive? Like if you can look at and then you post it in more of a curiosity lens, like, look, I'm gonna discover what that looks like for me. How do you feel like you got to that place where you could look at it through like making it work for you, making you be in a thriving space, more curiosity. I can say words, curiosity, because I think a lot of people get into blame, shame, guilt. It should look like, and they've only seen one way model. How do you think you got to that place of being able to just kind of look at it through that teacher curiosity lens?
So I think part of it was religious deconstruction. I grew up in a fairly high control religious situation. And once you start to break out of that, as I'm sure you know, that's one of those things that like you can't just chip away at that. It's like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things fall away all at once, and then you feel like this little kind of like cold, scared mollusk out in the middle of this empty space, and you have to start reconstructing around that. It's it's so much less deconstructing than it is reconstructing.
Oh
And
yeah.
trying to figure out what do I want all of these other things to look like made it very easy, at least in theory. It made it very
Yeah.
easy to step back and say, okay, what would this be like if it was fun? What would this be
Mm-hmm.
like if it felt normal to me? Because especially those of us who grow up undiagnosed, I think it's really easy for us to spend a lot of time and energy feeling like we are working so hard to fit into these boxes that we are just never going to fit into. And so there's this simultaneous ease at breaking out of it because it wasn't really working anyway,
Yeah.
but also like mental and emotional stress from the habituated, like, I've been trying so hard and I'm just supposed to give up on that. Like, I don't know what it looks like to give up on that. I don't know what to replace that with. I don't know what to do if I'm not doing that.
Mm.
And those two things running alongside of each other brings up a lot of emotions. And one of the things that I think we don't do enough in the professional organization space is talk about how emotional organizing is,
Oh yeah.
especially for women.
Oh yeah.
We
There's
not
so
only
many
have like the
emotions involved.
yes, we not only have the sentimental stuff, but we also have all of these habituated expectations that have been put onto us, especially if you're in a high control religious situation. Other people are supposed to have peace and ease and comfort, and we do that by ignoring the exhausted woman in the background, making it all run. And when you're raised to be the exhausted woman in the background, it feels almost a little bit like cheating to think about hang on, it doesn't actually have to be that exhausting. You mean I
Yeah.
don't have to run myself ragged to have a home that feels good, where I can actually sit down at the end of the day and relax instead of sitting here mentally running through the list of what 87 things did I not check off the list today?
Oh yeah. It's wild. The very, very strict, very orthodoxical religion I grew up in, it looked a lot like they would really have like these meetings where they would praise these women that would lots and lots of accolades for. And she sacrificed so much. And every meal was made from scratch. And her home was so tidy. And every little detail and every gift. And she was such a woman of God because of these things. And then the one I grew up in was always like, and she never complained. And she never put herself above others. She always had that servant's heart of, do you love this little voice I'm doing?
Yeah,
Every time I get into it, I'm like, I can't with my real voice. And it's like,
right.
I can't. I have to put on a character of religion.
Same.
So it's like, oh, she was just so precious.
Yeah,
The
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 kind of thing
gold
where
of
you
our
could,
community.
yes,
And
you can go to a
that's what we were
funeral
supposed to look out for.
and you can
She
learn
had
absolutely
cancer
nothing.
and still did all of the things perfectly, never thought of herself, always still got up and did all, like, this self-sacrifice thing was held on such a pedestal. Like that is
Yes,
what they equated godlyhood to, and the doing of all of the things. Like, and now we live in
right.
the age where, oh, you also have to work, but also all the kids and also all the house and also
Yes,
everything is your responsibility. Have a good time, but you will be like praised for godliness. And I'm like, so that's not going to work for me.
right.
but like going back
Right.
to like the emotionality of the things, like such a silly little thing, but occasionally I'll turn on Hoarders or something like that, the little TV show Hoarders, right? If it was as simple as somebody came in, cleaned up the stuff, and now it was clean, it wouldn't be a show. It really wouldn't,
No,
because there's
no.
so much emotion attached to the way we show up as women and what that needs to look like. And am I doing enough to the things
Yes.
themselves, to our relationship with how we work within the house and what other people's expectations? There are so many emotions around that. So tell me, can you tell me a little bit about what you found works for you first? And then we'll probably delve a little bit more into how that can work for a client. But you were in this journey of figuring out what worked for you, and you found a place where you were like, huh, it is now becoming easy for the first time in my ever existence. Tell us how
Yeah.
it became easy and what you noticed about yourself that created ease within your thriving environment now.
So, one of the first things for me was there's this aspect of ADHD where I'm not going to say all people, but a lot of us that I have talked to, we use our things to externalize our memory
Mm-hmm.
because our memories are so hit or miss that we will use items to hold on to those memories for us, to remind us of those memories. And then you're supposed to declutter that crap.
Yeah.
What do you mean I'm going to get rid of the things that are holding my brain together? And I had to get to a point where I could actually evaluate, is this something that I'm keeping emotionally, but for reasons I don't like? Is this something I'm keeping because I feel guilty about getting rid of it, or because I feel shame that I never used it, or because I feel like I should be the kind of person who would use this? Or is this something that I'm keeping because it's holding important memories for me that I don't want to lose? And if that's the case, could I keep it in another form that would do just as well? Could I take a picture and keep the picture? Or do I need the item? And evaluating things from that lens made it a little bit easier. And
Mm.
simultaneously and very connected to that, I always had a spectacularly messy floor as a kid. All of my stuff was on the floor all the time. My desk was a heap of stuff across the top of the desk. And one of the things that I know from my education degree And from working with kids, especially that have ADHD, is that our object permanence is just a little different. We have got to see our stuff to remember it exists. How many
Yeah.
times have we dug to the back of a cabinet and found something from 4 years ago and been like, oh my God, I was going to use that. I completely forgot that I even had that. That's what I was doing. I wasn't just piling stuff on the floor or on every flat surface for fun. I was doing it because my brain needs to see my stuff. And I really like to compare this to a lot of people get very anxious at the idea of seeing your stuff because we've been presented over and over with this idea that if it's tidy, that means that everything is put away and you can't see it. It's
Yeah.
open countertops with nothing available. Everything is behind a cabinet. A lot of us learned that with the if I shove it all under my bed where my parents can't see it, they won't get mad at me.
Yes.
And then you never see it again either.
Yeah.
And so I realized like I could think of it like a thrift store where everything is sort of thrown onto the shelf in a heap and it looks chaotic and messy and raises your cortisol, which I love a good thrift store, but I also like to leave after a while. Um,
Yeah.
or you can think of it like a spa. They've always got the gift shop at the front where they have all of the products that they use. They've got jewelry, they've got towels that are branded. You can see all of it. They're not hiding it from you. You can see it all, but it still looks fancy. It just looks welcoming. It looks relaxing. And I started thinking, okay, what if I could do that? What if I could have my things visible in a way that actually felt like it was bringing me peace instead of in a way that I felt like I constantly needed to be cleaning it up?
Yeah.
And just something as simple as prioritizing open shelving over bins that are opaque where you put the lid on or things behind cabinet doors in closets under the bed, just putting things out where I could actually see them made it a whole lot easier to start evaluating what parts of this feel good to me and what parts of this are bringing me more stress than they're bringing relaxation.
Mm. Yeah, you mentioned like the cortisol levels. I think that's one of the biggest reasons to have organization in your home, like looking at it from a self-reflection period. It's not because somebody else might come over or what somebody else thinks about you. It's like how do you create a home that really you walk in and it feels like peaceful to you, right? And
Yes,
I'm very much like you, where I'm like, I gotta see the things. I used to call it like it's horizontal filing. It's filing. They
yes,
are in organized pieces, but it looks like this. It's horizontally filed. You just don't understand it because you like vertical files. But like,
exactly.
I like the idea of open shelves and stuff. That is something I have found works for me as well. So when you're working with somebody else, tell us some nuances that might work for somebody else that wouldn't work for you. Tell us about a few client stories where you're like, their thing looked like this, so we can kind of get an idea of what the variety might look like.
Sure. So, one of the things that's different about me is that I will not come to your home. It doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
how lovely someone is. I am not going to go to your home and move your stuff because I have heard too many horror stories from people who said, we hired an organizer. They came in, they spent 3 days, everything looked beautiful. It stayed that way for about 2 weeks, and then we couldn't hold it together anymore. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want your home to feel like that. So
Yeah.
instead, I work entirely online, and what I do is I teach the strategy. I teach
Mm.
how to think about it, how to do the process of figuring out what feels right to you. And that is different for every person. So instead of teaching, here is how you should put your stuff away, I'm teaching, here's how you can look at your stuff, here's how you can look at your home and make these evaluations in a way that doesn't feel stressful, in a way that doesn't feel like pressure, but that is effective enough to actually get you where you want to go. So,
Yeah.
one of my favorite clients that I've ever had, she is the just the most lovely person. and will tell you, very ADHD. And one of my absolute favorite changes that she made in her home was she put a recycling bin in the bathroom.
Hmm.
Because she was like, I've always got toilet paper rolls, I've got paper towels from cleaning, I've got all these things. And then I set the roll down to wash my hands, and I intend to take it to the back door to the recycling bin, and I don't. And then before I know it, I have a heaping pile of toilet paper rolls that I haven't done anything with. And now there's too many of them to like pick up and hold on to and carry across the house. So now I have to go over there. I have to get a bag. I have to come back over here. And like, she just wasn't, she was like, I'm not doing it. And that's one of my primary things is like, just because you should do it means nothing. Are you going to do it?
Yeah.
If you're not, find something else. And she was not. And finally she
Mm.
was like, okay, I am not going to do it. So what else do we do? And I was like, well, try a recycling bin right there in the bathroom. And then once that bin is full, it just goes right next to the trash can. Once it's full, you take the bag, you put it in the recycling, you put a new bag in when you're doing the trash. It's part of the routine you already have. And she was like, I have had three different relatives put recycling bins in their bathrooms since that happened because people come over and they're like,
Awesome.
what is this? Oh, that's a great idea. And it's the little things like that where at first you're like, well, who would have a recycling bin in the bathroom? But then as soon as you have permission to do it, you are never the only one who's like, that's a great idea. I wish I had thought of that. Somebody else is always going to think it's a good idea. And
Mm.
it's very easy for us to feel like that's such a weird thing. I shouldn't have to. I shouldn't have to do it that way. I shouldn't have to put extra things in my routine. I should be able to, like, okay, but you won't. So instead of agonizing over whether you should or shouldn't or have to or don't, like, let's just assume that that's not going to happen and we'll start from there. And that doesn't have to be a judgment call.
Yes. When you can take that out of like shame, blame, guilt, isn't like the whole world opens up to possibilities. So it
It
sounds to me
does.
like you're saying maybe look at it from the realm of how do you naturally navigate your house anyway, and
Yes.
kind of building systems based on that. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. What do you naturally do? And what can you add to that? Or what can you put in your own way that makes it easier to get done the things that you want to do?
Mm.
I, when I load my dishwasher, I really like to load the dishwasher like right after dinner, but I don't want to run it while I'm sitting down, while I'm watching TV, while I'm relaxing, while I'm reading a book. I don't want to listen to that.
Yeah,
There's the
that's kind of
autism piece of
aggravating. Yeah.
I don't I'm not going to listen to that. I will be enraged.
Yeah.
It's just not for me. But then I forget to run it before I go to bed. So I just leave the detergent bottle right in the middle of the kitchen floor. I'm
And
gonna
then
have to walk over it.
you're gonna see it, you're gonna trip over it, you're gonna do something,
Yes,
and then that clicks in your brain. I probably should run the dishwasher.
right. I have to walk over it to turn the light off. And then if I'm gonna pick it up either way, I might as well pour some in and hit the button. And then I have clean dishes in the morning. And yeah, people have said, why on earth is the detergent bottle sitting in the middle of the floor? Because that's the system that works for me. It's
Mm,
not bothering anybody. It's not causing any problems. It is actually getting my dishes clean.
mm,
And it's those little things, paying attention to when does the problem happen? When you notice that something is really hard for you, when is the problem happening? Because usually the problem is happening before we think it is.
yeah.
We think that the problem is, for example, there was another client that I had that had the worst trouble loading her dishwasher. Just
Mm,
couldn't seem to do it. She would get all in the mindset of, I'm going to load the dishwasher. She would walk over to the dishwasher, and all of those good intentions would fall apart. And
yeah.
what was happening was she got all prepared to load the dishwasher. She opened up the dishwasher, realized that the clean dishes were still there, and had to transition tasks. And that transition was enough to make it really impossible to do that. You're ready to do one task, you're not ready to do the other task. So we just changed it up and said, okay, make unloading the dishwasher its own task. Find a point in the day that feels good to do that. And then when you get ready to load it, that's what you're able to do because it's already empty. And she got back to me a couple weeks later and she said, it's a miracle. It takes me the exact same time to unload the dishwasher as it takes for my coffee maker to run. And then
There we go.
I start the day with nice clean dishes. And then throughout the day, as I use dishes, I can put them back in the dishwasher because there's nothing in there.
Yeah.
And all it takes is saying, okay, the problem is not that loading the dishwasher is hard. The problem is the task changing that happens before you even get there. So let's solve
Yeah.
that problem. And then suddenly, this other thing that we thought was the problem is not really that big a problem after all.
Mm. How do you deal with somebody who maybe they have like some self-sabotage? I can imagine a time in my past where at some point the bottle of dishwasher soap in the middle of the floor, there would be a point at which I would be blind to it. Does that make sense? It's like you do a
Yes.
thing and one time you go, oh, I'll get it later. I'm just not up to it tonight. And you do it a second time. Oh, I know, but I'm not going to do it today. And after three or four times, all of a sudden the bottle on the floor just becomes something you step over. It's not a trigger anymore. It just stops being a thing. Do you tell somebody who kind of has a habit of going, oh, this time I'm going to set an alarm. Oh, this time I'm going to do a this. And then they kind of become blind to the thing that was supposed to be the trigger for them to start the activity.
That is a fabulous question, and I can honestly say it's one nobody has ever asked me, and I wish they would, because it is such a big, important piece of this whole thing. When we think about home organization, we think about it like this monolith, like it's this thing you do one time, and then it's like that forever if you just do all the right things, and that is not
Yeah.
true. As our lives change, I mean, your organization in your home is going to be very, very different if you are an empty nester than it is if you have toddlers. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to be very different if you suddenly get a knee injury and now you're not able to do some of the things that you were doing before, or your situation will change. It will
Yep.
at some point. And having the knowledge to figure out this is how I want my home to work for me makes it okay to change things.
Yeah.
Because we get in this rut where we think this is the system that works. Therefore, I must do it like this. And in a lot of ways, that's not really helping us because, yeah, it's great to do things that work. That's, I say that all day, every day. We should do the thing that works. But also, if it stops working, don't do it anymore. Change what you're
Mm.
doing to something else. I talk to so many people who are like, yes, I have downloaded every cleaning schedule that there is, and I can follow it for 3 days and then I can't. And I'm saying, okay, this is the literalism piece. When people say that
Yeah.
like, oh, autistics take things literally, and they're like, oh, that means you don't understand sarcasm. No, it's not. That means that when I download the cleaning schedule, and I did this so many times before I figured this out, I was thinking, okay, this is the rule now. And really, this is
Mm-hmm.
one person's average. This is what they wrote down because they were like, on average, this is what I do.
Yep.
So figuring out what is the average and then sticking to that is just as important. A- An evenly split piece, I would say, of my strategy. It's half getting you organized. And the other
Mm-hmm.
half of it is getting organized again after things fall by the wayside. Because it's not
Yeah.
always bad intentions. It's the weekend ball tournament. It's the weekend at the lake. It's taking a week-long vacation somewhere really lovely. And then you come back and you're like, yeah, okay, I should have changed those sheets before I left. And
Mm-hmm.
I probably, like, I didn't have time to take everything out of the fridge, but I probably should have. And it's getting back to that without feeling so much blame and shame, because the one thing you know about your home is that it has cycles. Everything in your home is a cycle. And you can look at that and say, I give up. I'm never going to be caught up. I'm never going to catch up. It's never going to all be done. Or you can look at that and say, great, there's no pressure to always be done with everything because that is literally impossible. So I'm going to give
It is so
myself permission.
impossible.
Yeah. And just giving yourself permission for everything to not always be done. And then knowing what to do on those days when you say, I don't have the energy today. I'm not going to do that today, but I know that I can catch up because I know how to do it.
Yeah. Mm. I think that's so important to let go of the idea of it ever is done like that. The goal of the house being clean, that goal is just you're never going to get there. And one of the things, like the thing I find interesting, like as somebody who's moved a lot in this last little while, have you ever fallen into this where you're like doing the deep cleaning? It's like spring cleaning time and you wash one wall or one thing of base fourth, and then you're like, oh, that made the next thing look more dirty. Now the cabinets look dirty. And then you wipe down the cabinets and you're like, what happened to the splash? What happened to the backsplash? When did that get so dirty? And it's like this never ending loop. And then you're back at the beginning and you're like, didn't I wipe those baseboards down?
Uh-huh.
It's like it's a never ending loop. But like there is, and I guess that can sound overwhelming, but if we can look at it and go back to kind of the original idea, what kind of organization, what kind of space, what kind of level works for me and makes me feel peaceful when I come in. And when you can kind
Yes.
of realize that and be okay with it's not going to be perfect,
No.
and that's okay. This is my level that feels comfortable to me, and I think that's like a real gift that you can give people.
And uh, just to go off of that, it's so easy to look around. That's such a normal thing that we do. Our brains are wired to find problems. We are wired
Mhm.
to be problem solvers. And that means that all we see is problems. And we don't actually appreciate the things that are good about our space. And so one of the rituals that I do as I'm teaching people, here's how you can move through your home a little differently, is to specifically notice when you notice that you're getting overwhelmed, you're getting bogged down in the should have dones, in the didn't I just do that? Why is it looking so terrible again? Is to stop and notice some things in the room that you really like.
Mm.
And to just remind yourself that, like, this is your space and you're allowed to like it. You don't always have to be finding the problems. You're allowed to say, that thing is not my favorite. I'm not going to pay attention to that right now. I'm going to focus my attention over here on this thing I really like. And that's actually going to give you the energy to work on the thing that you don't like as much. We
Oh, I
can't
love that. That's a
always
great
live in
point.
that negative energy.
Yeah. For true. Right now, like I'm doing this thing where we're living about a month somewhere. We're kind of world traveling. And so we live for a month
Oh,
somewhere in an
fun.
Airbnb, and then we live a month the next place, and we live a month the next place. And so like this home permanence, this like idea of how to navigate within a space, like we've had to learn how to really navigate it quickly and go, okay, let's get our bearings in a new space. How does this kitchen work? How does this cleaning situation work? And finding things that work for us and don't. And the reason that came up is you were like, the things that you don't love, you don't have to pay attention to. So we came into the place we're in right now, which is in Tirana, Albania. That's where we're at right now. And there was some things that we were like, that is so tacky. We literally like kind of took them down and put them in a little corner. And we were like, those things are going to just stay there until we leave because everything else feels beautiful and makes us smile. Those things are kind of like, they're literally like three or four things like behind the TV. And I'm like, yes, it looks like the shoving of my childhood. And it is working for me in the moment because the rest of the space feels like something that makes me joyful. So it's
Yes,
just kind of funny.
I love that. And it's done with intention.
Yep.
It does,
Yep.
when
We
you're
just literally
doing
read
it
those three
that
things.
way,
Mm.
yes. And when you're doing it that way, when you're approaching it from that perspective, it feels intentional. And you
Hmm.
can, then you get to look at those three things that are shoved behind the television and like giggle to yourself and go, oh, like, that's so funny that I found that solution for those things that feels a little bit silly, but also like I'm so proud of myself for taking that initiative and doing this thing with my space that I really like. And then instead of like, oh God, that's so embarrassing that I have stuff shoved back there, it becomes another thing you like about the space.
Oh no, I was like literally, I want to take a picture of like behind the TV before we leave just to giggle and go, look how creative of problem solvers we are.
Exactly. I love that so much.
Okay, are you ready for a lightning round?
Absolutely.
Okay. What's one organizing rule that you like to ignore frequently?
I will never use a label maker.
Awesome. Awesome. A habit people could stop feeling guilty about.
Not being able to keep up with their habits. Our
Mm,
ADHD
that's a
brains
good
are bad at habits. Build routines instead of habits. Connect those things together.
one. So you're really good at organizing. What is one thing you like to do in a space to make it more beautiful?
I like to focus on the view from where you usually sit. Most of us think I'm going to beautify the space where I sit. And when you're sitting there, all that stuff is behind you. So instead,
Mhm.
try looking at what do you see when you sit there?
Oh, that's great. I love that. Okay. What's something you used to apologize for but refuse to apologize for
Having any kind of mess in my house. If I am in the middle of a project, I'm not picking up just because somebody is coming over. I am not making more work for myself, and I am not apologizing for living in my own home.
now? Oh, that's so beautiful because like the first thing you do when you enter somebody's home and what do they say first up? Oh,
Oh, I'm
excuse
so
the
sorry.
mess. The first thing.
Every
Uh
time.
every freaking time. What is the an underrated ADHD life hack?
Deciding which things you actually care about and which things you do
Mm,
not want to put energy into.
I love that. What's one thing you do to help yourself feel like in a thriving environment within like what you wear and how you dress? Because you bring that environment with you everywhere you go.
You do. And I think the most important thing for me on that is to look at what makes me smile when I see it in a mirror. If I'm walking past and I catch my reflection in a window or something, what do I notice? And what am I always like, ugh, I'm so glad I bought that. I'm so glad I wore that. And then wear it more.
Tell me what one thing like that is for you.
Currently, it's this. It's this ring. I found this. I love chunky jewelry. Most of it, I just feel like it looks silly on me. And I found this one that was very large, but also it's got all the curly cues and it just feels very delicate. And I have been
Mm,
loving this for weeks now.
you like, you look at it and it's like, makes me smile. I love it.
It does. It's great.
If people could take away one key thing from today's interview, what is the one thing you want them to remember?
Your home should work for you just as much or more than you work for your home.
That is like gold. Y'all should just like write that down right now. Like, stop, write it down because seriously, gold nuggets right there. Okay, Alyssa, where can people find you? Where can they follow you, find more like really great ADHD organization stuff?
Mostly Instagram and TikTok, also Facebook. All of them are going to be at Alyssa's Yellow House. And I post this kind of stuff all the time.
Okay, y'all. So go on all the socials at Alyssa's Yellow House. Follow all the things because like sometimes it just takes that one little tip and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, it like one thing can so improve your life, especially when it comes to like daily organization and how you run just your life in a house. One thing can like the recycling bin in the bathroom, y'all. You might go do that. I'm going to tell you, you probably, if you have the toilet paper roll stacking up, maybe that's a good idea for you. But like one thing like that. And then a few weeks later, you're like, wow, just that one thing made me feel better. And then imagine if you get tips all the time. So go follow Alyssa at Alyssa's Yellow House. I am so grateful for you to come on today. I told her, I'm like, these are stories after my heart. It took me years to figure out how to have an organized home. It's a lot easier now because my kids are adults, but good heavens, when I had like 4 kids at home, I had like 4 kids at home. I was working full time as a school teacher. We all, so I was working as, and then I was going back to college and I was running a business and like trying to do all of the things and trying to be mommy religious. And good heavens, that was a lot. It took me years and years and years to deconstruct and go, this is what actually works for me and makes me feel happy. So when I find somebody like Alyssa who can come on and share those tips, I'm so stinking grateful because one size doesn't fit everyone. It is so great to understand that like what works for me may be different than works for you. And having somebody like Alyssa who can help you understand how your brain works, how you navigate through a space and build systems that actually work for that. That's freaking great. So with that, this has been Julie May and the Ridiculously You podcast. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Like, share with a friend, download all of our episodes, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Share the spark, take it higher. Hit subscribe, bring a friend. Let the wildness never end. Tap in, stand true. This is your crew.